are live. Welcome, everybody. We are streaming once again live via Zoom. I got the Greg over here, Johnny's over here, and guess what, Greg? Guess what?
What happened?
The Bears won again, and I get to have another.
The Bears won.
The Bears won, and I get to have another cocktail to them. So bear down, everybody out there that is a Bear fan.
Mm-hmm. And it was an ugly win. It was a very ugly win.
That's all the Bears do.
No. I'm going to talk about my Packers. My Packers won, so I too am enjoying a tasty beverage. So
all right. So I guess go Pack go. Ugh, gave me the chills to say that.
Oh gosh, it was a weird game. So I mean, and it was just the field goals. I mean, like, and Crosby has those kind of games where it's like,
actually, before that, wasn't he 26 in a row?
Well, that's just it. He has these absolute, huge numbers, right?
Yeah.
And then he'll have like a game that you're just like, what happened? Like, what happened to that particular game where you're just missing? But it's like everybody's got that off day at work,
Yeah, that's
true.
And
that was his day. Like, that was his day to have an off day at work. And everybody at the bar that I was at, they were like, "Oh my God, take him out," and stuff like this. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Wait, like, and I had the feeling like every kick he had was clutch, especially when I was like, when I'm like, no, he'll come in, it'll happen if they can hold him and they get in field goal range during overtime. I just had a feeling that he would hit it, and he did. So
yeah,
there we go.
Speaking of an off day,
yeah.
On those off days you're having, folks, don't forget to just check us out on Facebook, like and subscribe. Check us out on YouTube and on all major podcast platforms. And if you want to get some, I don't know, if you just want to zone out or take a headspace, Greg, we are sponsored by Audible.
Hey, we are. Yeah. We've got a nice little partnership with them. So
I would agree.
If the listeners at home would like 1 month, 30 days of Audible free on us, they can go to audibletrial.com/JATG. That's JATG.
Yeah.
Johnny
and the Greg.
And yeah, that'll take you there. You can sign up for 1 free month. You can cancel it after the month if you want, if it's not for you. And there you go. Get some get some learning, get some entertainment, whatever you want to get.
Yes, I will be. I think in a couple of months, I will be able to download the latest Matthew Riley audiobook. His book came out today. Last book in a big series that I've been reading, or it's coming out soon.
I wonder if that was a day and date release. I'm going to look that up right now.
Yeah. But the reason I bring that up is he's one of my favorite authors. And he will be jumping on the podcast sometime in November. We've had him on before.
Yeah.
Great guy, super cool, down to earth. And he's an international bestseller. So the fact that he even wants to jump on here the second time to talk about how he's directed a new film that's coming out on Netflix, and his finishing up a fantastic book series that I've loved. So that's just a sneak peek on what's coming in November. So hang in there.
And what's is that book 7 or book 6 or book 7 of the Jack?
It's kind of funny. Series. I believe because he goes down. So I think the first one started 7 Deadly Wonders. So yeah, it's 7. It's the 7th book.
Okay.
Yeah, but the first book he counts down from 7, 6, 5 all the way down. So
yeah. And what's the name of his newest one?
Why would you do that?
Okay. I don't know because it just came out today and I can't remember.
The one Maze or something like that, or the One Lost Maze. God, I hope he's not watching right now. Matt, if you happen to be checking out, I'm sorry, sir. I won't get this wrong again.
It's okay to be
the one Labyrinth. The one Labyrinth.
Oh yeah, I think it's. You know what? I'm not even gonna attempt it for fear that I'm gonna get it wrong.
You sent it to me, so I'm going to check it out right now.
You
sent it to me,
and that's what I'm looking at.
The One Impossible Labyrinth. There you go.
I knew it was
One
like
Impossible Labyrinth. Matthew Riley. Check it out, people. It's a lot of fun. You'll have to start at his first book, 7 Deadly Wonders, and work your way down. It's worth it.
Yeah.
If you like, I guess Lord of the Rings / Indiana Jones / Mission Impossible, this is right up your alley.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's go back to football. I just want to talk about my
Yeah.
weekend. I went
Yeah.
I went to the Minneapolis. I went to the city of Minneapolis to watch the Minnesota Vikings take on the Detroit Lions. A friend of mine. What we're doing is we have this pretty pretty long plan that's probably a little too. We're a little too old to probably see it all the way complete, but who knows? We'll give it a shot.
You can do it.
We want to go to every NFL stadium one time a year and watch a game there. You know, it doesn't have to be his Vikings or my Bears. It can be anybody. We don't care. And the reason I wanted to do this, and I asked him if he wanted to be a part of it because he loves football as much as I do. Reason I asked him if he wanted to go is because I've always been interested in all of these teams' cultures and just how the people become diehards of the Buffalo Bills and how they become diehards of the Ravens and the Steelers and the Packers and the Colts. And there's all this tradition throughout the NFL that makes it fantastic and great. And so to get him on board, I said, all right, we'll go check out your Vikings first. And let me tell you, man, for those of you who aren't Vikings fans, like my co-host here, Greg, with the Viking lore that you love your Vikings. I'm talking actual Vikings. You love that lore.
Oh yeah,
they do a great job of incorporating that.
They do
into this team. They have this big chant called Skull, which is I guess was a battle cry for Vikings.
It was Skull. It was drink.
Oh, okay. Well, they've changed it and they made it like a battle cry. So, but what's very cool is now the stadium's top notch. It's beautiful. It's
because God smote their other one.
It's a gorgeous place, gorgeous facility. I love the way it works. In fact, I'm going to tag an interesting story here. I heard Virginia McCaskey, who is the owner of the Chicago Bears, her and her son were taking a tour of it before it was officially opened. And she said to him, when are you going to build me something like this? All right. It's just kind of funny now that it seems like we're going in that direction. So if the Vikings had anything to do with us getting a new stadium or getting a little kick in the ass to do that, thank you. Moving forward. So we're in there and they do this fantastic introduction of building up the excitement of the Vikings here. What they do is they have the old timers. You know, if you ever hear of the Purple People Eaters, okay, back in I think it was the 60s or 70s, that's when the Vikings had those guys. We're talking Jim Marshall, Alan Page, these rough and tough. And this is back when they played out in the cold.
Yeah, like smash mouth football.
Yeah. Too. So you get Jim Marshall there, all right, who's sitting there and he's doing this. It's like this video production, and he's doing this. He's telling the stories that like back when we were out there, you know, he would explain Odin. Odin is the god of war, and he goes through the whole thing of Odin, and he goes, and when we were out there and it started snowing and it would be cold, he goes, all our defense, we would start going, Odin, 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 Odin. And I'm thinking there, all right, man, if I'm a visiting team and I'm already freezing my ass off in Minnesota, and all of a sudden I hear that defense yelling, Odin, Odin, Odin. And they start going higher and higher and higher and higher, right? And it was so cool. It gave me chills. And then he starts talking about when the snow falls, you know, Odin was blessing us, right? They really got into that Viking-like thing, which was really cool. Okay. And so he's done with his story. And now they're basically telling everybody in a stadium, hey, game's about to start. Get your butt in there. In the beginning, they had, I think it's the Minneapolis Orchestra or something. They start playing this awesome music. All right. So you can think of this orchestra, this percussion just starting to ramp up. And the way they did this was like, it went from you were watching the videos on the huge screens that they have. You're watching them like get ready. They're all getting ready. They show into the locker room where these guys are listening. Like they show your team just pumping up, getting ready. And then all of a sudden, Greg, it starts snowing in the stadium. They pumped out fake snow. and it started snowing on us. And I was like, this is fucking amazing. And they got me excited. I was like, holy shit, we're ready to go. Let's go. And the sound
Yeah.
system was just
Top notch. Yeah.
it was top notch, but it invaded you. Like by the time me and my friend left, we had splitting headaches because it was so loud in there. And all of a sudden, the percussion, and then all of a sudden your Vikings come out and they wheel out this ship and they shoot out of the ship. Yeah, they shoot out of the long ship. And it got me so pumped up. And the way that they had the camera angles, it was like you were watching it and all of a sudden it just appeared in front of you. It was so cool. So my hat's off to Minnesota in terms of amping up the crowd for the introduction. It was fantastic. It was awesome. And I think I told you this before. Anybody that is a Minnesota Vikings fan, I get it. I get why you're a Vikings fan, just as like I get why you're a Packers fan. The culture, both cultures are great. They were super nice to me. Everybody was just really into the game. It was a cool culture, very cool.
Were you wearing Vikings gear when you were there?
I bought a hat. I just bought a hat because I want to buy something at these stadiums. And I had no idea what I wanted to buy. And I was like, oh, I'll just buy a hat that I'll probably never wear, but I'll probably have it up somewhere wherever I decide to. This is the stadiums I've gone to. Anyway, but it was just so cool, so much fun. It was a great time. It was a good game too. But it was fun time. And so my hat's off to you, Minnesota. You got a good culture going on there. So yeah.
And it's the struggling because you're right. We did, like, you and I both got into Viking lore, like mythology, lore, society, like studying that. Right. And, and it goes beyond just watching Vikings on the History Channel and stuff like that. We were like reading stuff.
Well, we got tattoos of Vikings.
Yeah. I mean, it became, and like, did the family research and, I got a little bit of that in me, so I'm going to embrace that. And I mean, so my hate for the Vikings is interesting in that, for one, I think it has to do with my geographic location, like growing up too. Like I grew up so close to the Illinois border that there were enough Chicago fans around, like transplants from Illinois or even just transplants from Chicago itself, coming up to work in like the factories that supported my town, that I guess it wasn't a big deal because like it made it like, oh, well, if you like. And I grew up, I mean, I remember 85, like in my memory, I remember when the Bears went to the Super Bowl and won it. And I remember watching the Super Bowl shuffle as a kid and going, I don't know who that Refrigerator Perry guy is, but he seems like a really happy, just big dude that plays football. And
they were personalities for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's just it. The personalities, and, listening to my dad complain about like, Mike Singletary and Walter Payton. And he's like, those guys are shit. And like, because he's a diehard Packer
of course. Yes.
But even still having that split in me as a kid who barely paid attention to football as a kid going, right. I don't know. They seem pretty good. When you're watching, and then you hear about like Mike's, and then you in high school and you're like, the Mike Singletary Award, that's for like football players that do good things. And like, they don't just name a award after you if you were
Walter Payton Award, but I understand.
I'm sorry, the Walter Payton Award.
Walter Payton Man of the Year, I believe. Yeah.
Yep. And you just don't get that award for being like a terrible person. Right. So you're going, I don't know. The Bears weren't bad. Now the Vikings, on the other hand, so around me, there just weren't any Vikings fans, because we were farther away from Minnesota, or Minneapolis, St. Paul, like the far enough away. And when I did start to pay attention to football is when I can't remember the lineman they had. They had
Chris Dolman,
defensive
lineman.
Yeah, it was a defensive lineman who was notorious for trying to like break ankles in the pile.
Oh, and I don't know anybody like that except Ndamukong Suh.
Was
But
he?
he played. No, he played for the
No, he
Lions,
played.
and
Yeah, he
that's
played for the
recent.
Lions.
That's
Yeah.
recent, not when you're.
But it was like I can't remember who it was, but you'd see him like grab an ankle and then do like a quick, like if you're turning over on the in bed really quick, and they're saying what he's trying to do is like twist an ankle, or and you're like, why do they put up with that? And that's when I was like looking at the Packers culture of the Packers don't do those kind of things. I mean, that was my,
I get
looking
it.
looking at the who we had as like defensive linemen and stuff like that, and on the surface it didn't seem like we did that kind of thing.
Right.
And you're going, well, man, fuck those guys. And that grew into my brother, who married a Vikings fan, who was a Vikings fan for no other reason than she liked purple. And you're going, oh, that's just cheap. Come on. I mean, so and then it became like you hated the Vikings just because you just wanted to hate the Vikings. So it kind of perpetuated this thing. And I like right now, I don't know if I could name you one Vikings player. That's how much I don't pay attention to them.
Makes sense. Hey, I have a question real quick to throw out to the crowd.
You know what? I should probably be monitoring that. I haven't looked at all.
Do any of you people out there, okay, hate another team simply because you have a friend or a relative or someone that just because they root for that team, it gets underneath your skin and you just hope and pray that that team loses every week?
Yeah. That's a great question. Welcome to Marshall, who's posting some stuff in the chat. We appreciate you, buddy.
What's up, Marshall?
And yeah, I mean, I could see like if you and I went up there again, and I would probably be enveloped in the Viking-ness of it all, because I know,
or you would at least get it.
Oh, and you know what? I still do.
Okay,
like you,
I
just hearing you, and I've seen like their warm-ups, and I've seen like their stadium, and when they blow the horn, and they've got the mascot who's like a literally dude in furs, and I'm like,
no, actually, he's gone now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's gone. I think his name was Ragnar. He was he was actually like a school teacher, and he would just do it on the weekends or something like that.
Oh,
yeah, but plenty of those guys walking around there.
Yeah, I could get into that.
Yeah, it was just very cool. I think if you go in there and not like, God damn these stupid fans, these stupid people, like if you just go in there and just go, okay, let's see what you guys are about.
I would probably, I mean, now that I kind of analyze it and I'm looking inward these days, John, and I'm kind of realizing that
we're all trying.
Yeah, I guess I don't really have a reason to hate the Vikings, but you got to hate somebody. And
I hear you.
I guess for right now, it's just good.
Now, I don't hate the Vikings. I don't like them when we play them, but
yeah.
But overall, I don't. There's
is that a worse insult? Like you don't care about them enough that you just don't even pay.
I never thought
that you don't even pay attention to them. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I've never thought of it like that.
That's I mean, if that's the case, then I really hate like the Panthers. I mean, I don't really think
Detroit.
about them.
I really don't think about Detroit ever.
No, not much.
But yeah, it's a good question. Anyway, both our teams won. The Minnesota Vikings was a fantastic experience. And I can't wait for the next one. I don't know where I'm going, but I have an idea.
And you're doing one a year?
One a year. That's all I can afford. I mean,
yeah. Well, before you kind of made it sound like you were doing 36 in 1 year, and I'm like, no, that's not right.
No, not doing that. That was always my like retirement. Like,
that is not even possible.
Well, what I wanted to do was actually at the time, I thought, how cool would it be to rent an RV and go from Monday Night Football venue to the next Monday Night Football venue for the entire season? I thought that would be cool. I don't know how. Maybe that gets old real freaking quick. I don't.
Yeah, I think it would be cool for a little bit.
Maybe 2 weeks.
I'd say three or four. I'd be into it, seeing the different cities, stuff like that. But then sooner or later, you're like, I want to go home.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's so stay tuned to next week. I mean, next year. Who knows where I'm going next year? We haven't decided yet. I think we're talking Cleveland. So I think we're talking that if you're up for it.
Oh, I'd be up for it. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if my wife will be up for it, but I'll be up for
it. All right. Speaking of the Browns, look, guys, you're gonna have games like that.
Yeah,
that's how it is.
Yeah, that's
the NFL.
Yep, that's a tearjerker.
Yeah, it's just the NFL.
But there was I heard there was so much good football on
There
this
was
weekend.
great football, even college. There was good
College
football.
was great. This wasn't even on our docket to talk about, but I had my
No.
barbecue competition this weekend.
Yeah. Oh, yes,
And
yes. We should talk about that.
we'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll replace that with the other topic that we nixed for today.
Right.
But like, yeah, the college football scene, like we were watching the Texas game.
Yeah. OU.
That was a great game. The A&M game, holy crap, that came
Yeah.
down to a field goal. I mean,
Iowa, Penn State was pretty good.
Iowa, yeah, we have a guy there who was a big Penn State fan, so we were watching that game. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just a great weekend.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. So Greg and I, mostly Greg, I just decided to say, okay, Greg, well, he's adopted the Cleveland Browns. He's actually adopted them for quite a while. You've always always hoped.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was born out of some need that I have, and I have no idea why, is to pick a sport, find the worst team in that sport, and just really be like, come on, guys, just get it together, get competitive. And that has kind of blossomed into me, like, for the last couple of years, watching the Browns kind of claw their way out of the barrel.
Yeah.
To, like, last year in the playoffs, you're just kind of like, holy shit, they could
I was very excited about that.
They could make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're getting excited about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got totally caught up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm like, I would love to see the Browns in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. It wouldn't bother me, but that's not the team I'm rooting for.
You know what actually got me started? What got me started in even paying attention to the Browns is when they recruited Joe Thomas out of Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
And Joe Thomas, probably arguably one of the best offensive linemen to come out of Wisconsin. And,
he's one of the best
offensive linemen ever.
And yeah.
In my
opinion, not with just Wisconsin, but in Cleveland, NFL. Yeah.
And, he went to the Pro Bowl so many years. I mean, he was literally a part of a losing team. And because he's a Wisconsin boy, of course, I paid attention to his career. And you're reading these interviews, and he's like, the people here treat me great. I make a good living here. I mean, he became their franchise player, which as an offensive lineman is kind of saying something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I will never leave this city as long as they'll have me. I'm here. And I'm like,
he had some sort of playing streak that was insane. I think he played 13 NFL seasons, and I think in his last season he missed the last 6 games.
Yeah, which he had never missed. Yes. Like, he had the most snaps played ever.
He never missed a snap until his last season, which was when I found out, like, I think he tore his tricep and he was out for the season. I was like, oh, Joe.
Yeah. Yeah, that was killer.
Yeah, and then next year they started actually being good, which really stunk too.
Yeah, and because
you wanted him to have some success.
You did. I mean, and he's doing well now.
Oh, he's totally great. He's in great shape. He's lost.
Oh my gosh,
weight.
he is. Yeah. I met him actually when he was in high school. I was just starting my teaching career, and he was at a Milwaukee suburb. I was coaching track and field at the time. I did shot and discus, and he was also a big shot and discus person in high school. And then,
do you know where?
What school or what?
Yeah, what high school? Because I think Farrah's husband coached him.
I think it's at one of the Waukeshas, if I remember right.
Maybe Waukesha. Right. I know that she was telling me that her husband Jason coached Melvin Gordon.
Okay.
Yeah, from Wisconsin.
Oh, I didn't know.
He now plays for the Broncos. So
yeah. So anyway, one of the reasons Thomas went to Wisconsin is because they would also let him compete in shot and discus. Okay. Where all the other schools are like, no, you play football, and then we're not risking you for anything else.
Yeah.
And Alvarez let him play. And what was it? So I'm at a track meet. I meet him, and he's this 18-year-old. I mean, it's like he's 18 years old. He's a good-looking kid. He's built like a brick shit house. He's a 4.0 plus student. Nice as hell.
Yeah, I heard he's a super nice guy.
His entire family, who I had, I'm standing around with the coaches, and they come around and they shake everybody's hand. Thanks for being here. Yeah. This giant track and field invite. And he comes over, and I know who he is because I'm tracking this kid from Wisconsin that's going to go play at Wisconsin, be this big he was very sought after. And he's looking at me, he's like, "Hey, coach." And I'm like, "Hey, Joe, good throw." I mean, he threw 60 feet in a shot put, which I had never witnessed before. And he's like, "Do you have any tips for me?" I'm like, "No, none at all.
Maybe you should tie your shoelace tighter.
Yeah, you scratched a 57-foot throw because it wasn't up to snuff for you." And I'm like, "I ain't got nothing, but nice to meet you." And his family was super nice.
Yeah.
And
Good.
so they
Yeah.
kind
So
of
you
hooked
always
me
kind
into,
of rooted for him. And I get
if
that. Yeah.
if that were today and Joe Thomas were to have his own logo when he was in college, I would have bought his hat. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
so yeah, and now he owns, I figured this out. He owns have you heard of Mission Barbecue? They're opening up kind of
I
spots
have.
around the
Yes.
Midwest.
He owns that?
Yeah, he owns a bunch of them, and
Oh, cool.
it's a big for very pro vet, first responder, police, kind of place where they get special discounts if you're in those fields, which I'm totally okay with. So
He's just one of those guys that got it right.
yeah, and it's
They
good
just get it
barbecue.
right.
So yeah, he did. He got it. He's doing very well in life just by being a good person. So you're like, awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So going to the team that I'm going to officially doubt for this podcast, I've mentioned them a couple of times. And the reason I like them is I actually liked them in the 90s when they went to 4 consecutive Super Bowls and lost 4 consecutive Super Bowls. I'm talking about the good old Buffalo Bills. Okay. Now, I've talked about before on this podcast how their team known as their fan base,
the Bills
Mafia, how the way that they kind of get after other players is by putting as much money as they possibly can into their rivals' charities.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, we're going to show you.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a game back in 2018. And just hang with us, people that aren't liking us talking about sports. Just hang in there.
Yeah, we got other stuff.
We got some real interesting stuff coming up, actually. But back in 2018, the Bills needed the Bengals to beat the Ravens to get into the playoffs. Okay. So Andy Dalton throws a touchdown pass to beat the Ravens, and the Bills Mafia sought out Andy Dalton's charity and threw like $5 million in there to thank him for letting their team in the Super Bowl. So they're just such a cool fan base. And I don't know if you've been watching them lately, but I've been kind of studying them since 2018 when they got Sean McDermott as their head coach. And I love the way they built their football team. It's the way I want the Bears to build their football team. They build it from the lines out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's how I think you should build a football team, is from offensive and defensive line out. And that's what they're doing. And I just watched them beat the shit out of the Kansas City Chiefs last night. Fantastic. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Their quarterback's a lot of fun to watch. So I'm going for the Bills if the Bears don't make it. So yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. So speaking of not nice people and a little bit of football, I called you up today.
You did. Yeah.
And I'm going to try to walk through this on a very nice line, because I'm coming at this from of me just wanting to understand where my ignorance lied. If it makes sense.
It does.
So I called up Greg because I think Greg, you just happen to be more self-aware than I think I am. And so what I did was today or yesterday, there was news this weekend that Jon Gruden, the head coach for the Raiders, back in 2011, he had a racist trope about I believe the president of the Players Association.
Yeah. I'm looking up the article here.
Yeah. Who's a black man. And what he said in the email was something to the line of, that guy, he compared that guy's lips to the Michelin Man.
Well, he said he had a set of lips like Michelin tires. So not the Michelin Man, but like just the
Michelin, like Michelin tires. Okay.
Yep.
So my first thought, and I'm going to admit here, folks, this was kind of an ignorant thought. My first thought was, well, that doesn't make him racist. That just makes him like an asshole. He's just an asshole for making fun of a guy's lips. Like that doesn't like are we jumping on the gun here too fast? Because it's real popular to do that now. It's real popular to find somebody that's on a soapbox and try to kick them off.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called Greg and I said, Greg, am I missing something? Please let me know what I'm not understanding here, because is this racism or is this just kind of just stereotyping? And my example to Greg was, okay, Greg, if I made fun of your bald head and I was a black man, would that be racist? Would it be like if I said I think I said the actual thing I said was, if your head was like Elmer Fudd,
Yeah.
would that be racist? Because I don't understand, and I don't think I'm the only one. I think there's a lot of people out there, but a lot of people like me who are afraid that if we even don't even like, if we don't ask, not, what I'm saying is I think there's a lot of people that are afraid to ask the questions because they'll come out as ignorant, right? They'll come out as like, oh, you don't know, or and I think right now there is so much confusion out there and there's not enough people. I'm not calling myself brave, but I have this platform, or we have this platform where I think, let's talk about it. Is this racism? Is this not? Is this overblown? Is this,
Right. So in your example of my
yes,
bald head being like Elmer Fudd, that's not racist. That's just
even if I'm black.
Even if you're black, that's not
Okay.
racist. But I mean, what your
Why
idea
is that not?
It's not even stereotyping.
Okay.
What Gruden did is, and comparing the physical attribute of big lips and
Yes.
applying that to a black man is what's being construed as racist. And this is something that we had talked about, that you like, there are racist tropes, which are the idea that there are just these stereotypical things about black people that were perpetuated throughout history.
Like,
And
they like fried chicken, they like watermelon, they can't swim.
Yep, afraid of dogs. I mean, all those
yes.
things that you see, and that honestly, like, a black comedian will use as fodder to create jokes out of. So we grew up seeing that kind of stuff, and some people think, well, if like it's not racist if they're gonna like make fun of themselves for it. Like if a group of people do that, I mean, you can take any ethnic group, you can take Mexicans or Chicanos or Asians or anybody, anybody's race, and say, well, that's them making fun of themselves. And there's plenty of ones out there for white people too. But what Gruden did is that when he made that comparison, it had like even if he didn't mean it as that, it's got that little twinge of racism in there.
Okay.
And that's where the emails are coming out.
Right. So my question was, isn't that just stereotyping, or isn't that, or what? Right. How does that turn into a racist thing? And you explained.
I can't remember what I said, but it's the idea that because it becomes a race thing. Yes, it's a stereotype. It's a negative stereotype, and that's because it's applied to race or associated with race. That can make it racist.
Okay.
Is that what I said?
No. Yeah. What you basically said was, anytime you take a stereotype that has to do with a race, like all Asian people are really good at math.
Yeah.
That would be a racist statement, instead of saying
everybody's good at math. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like, oh, that kid's good at math. I know people, and this is something that I've heard.
Yes.
Oh, you're Asian, so you must be good at math. I know. I use the example of The Office, of Michael Scott, the basketball.
This is
episode.
Good. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
So the basketball episode, Michael Scott, and it's the Office team, like against the warehouse team, and so Michael's trying to get the team together, and he looks at Stanley, who is a black man, and goes, "Okay, of course you're on the team." And Stanley's like, "What's of course that I'm on the team?" And he says, Kevin, who's a chubby white guy, "Nope, we don't want you." Right. And then Oscar says, "Hey, I'll be on the team. I'll play." And Michael looks at Oscar and says, "Nope, we will get you on the team if we ever play baseball or if we're involved in boxing. And it just moves on. So he's saying all these racist things that are stereotypes of, and what at the time, like we were talking about this morning, Michael Scott isn't trying to be racist. Like he doesn't feel like any of them, I think, are lesser human beings, but he has this is what basketball is.
Right.
These are what athletes are.
Right.
These are the races that are good at certain sports. And so, yes, it's I don't want to even say unintentionally racist. It's like racist. Like
once you say that is the okay, because I've starting to figure this out, that there is literal ignorance. Like I didn't know.
Yeah, he's ignorant to the fact that he's being racist at that point.
Right. But what I'm saying is that's not an ignorance intention. It's an innocent ignorance. Is that, you know what I mean? He's not being
right.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying, right? He's not being
I do, but you're right. He's not trying to be mean.
Right.
But he's ignorant.
Correct.
In which is still bad though.
Right. No, yes, it's still bad. Absolutely. It's still bad. I get it. But it's, I don't want to say it's more forgivable, but it's almost like, I don't know.
Well, he needs to be educated. I mean, if that were a real life situation,
right.
I mean, with that person, I would want to like pull that person and be like, "Hey, buddy, let's talk for a second." I mean, I need to educate you. Yeah, let's have a chat. I mean, those are so forgivable. It's a I don't want to say it's a gray area, because all racism is bad. I'm not trying to.
I know.
It's an opportunity, and you know what? Even when we've had, because we've dove into this on the show in the past, where we've had people of color on, and we're like, teach us, because the worst, like, we know that we're not going to be intentionally racist because we're not those people, but our worst nightmare is that we become Michael Scotts and that we are unintentionally racist.
Correct.
In our ignorance, going, yeah, can we please avoid that? Just teach us what we need to
do. I gave one of an example to you this morning that that my family happened to point out that whenever a big, large man, whenever a big, large black man would walk in, I would automatically assume that I would stare at him long and think to myself, oh, is he a Chicago Bear? Because he looks like a Chicago Bear. He's a big guy. Maybe he's a Chicago Bear. And I was told, okay, that's racist. I'm like, no, that's not. She goes, I thought it was stereotyping. Like I said, if anything, I'm just stereotyping. I just see an athletic, huge person. I think they are a football player or they are a basketball player or something like that. And she said, and she was like, no, I think you're unintentionally being racist. And I'm like, no, I said, I have done it to white people. Like if you're a abnormally large person, I have this way of looking at you longer and thinking, are you a professional athlete? Because I might just want to say, hey man, I like what you do. Keep it up. Like, go Bears, go Bulls, whatever. But I asked that to you and you were like, no, it would only be, racist if I was only like, I would ignore the white guy or the Asian guy and just say, right.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think if you were only doing it to a certain race, you would be racist,
right?
In that you're trying to place them.
Okay.
Or unintentionally racist. I don't even know if racist would be the thing, because that's not necessarily negative to just try to recognize somebody as a professional
what Jon
athlete.
Gruden did, going back to what this is about, that was racist for sure.
Yes. Even if it was unintentional, he said I wasn't trying to be racist. I was just making a comment on his body type. And, and it's like, bullshit. Even if I give him the benefit of the doubt and say he didn't know that the stereotype of big lips is a trope used by racist. If for some reason he was in a field that most of his athletes, like the percentage has, I think, leaned way over to where most of the athletes that he's coaching are black.
Yeah.
You go, really? You don't know that? Even if he can honestly say he didn't know that, you go, that was still a dumb move. Like, you shouldn't have done it.
Right. Um, moving forward with this, we
Fast forward a couple
yeah,
hours, like
he actually did a lot more. I guess more emails have come out.
yeah,
And because of that, Jon Gruden is going to resign. He's no longer going to be the head coach. He's going to step down after emails. Dang it, that thing just disappeared on me.
yep,
Emails containing
homoph-
racist, sexist, and anti-gay remarks were made public. So
yeah.
this isn't a oops. This is a perpetual problem.
There's a
Behind closed doors, this is who he
right.
really is. And I've been hearing, and look, I've never been a Jon Gruden fan. He just always rubbed me the wrong way, but I didn't know it was anything like this. But there have been people that have said that they never called him a racist or anything like that, but they just said, he's not a nice guy. This guy's not
Really?
a nice guy. Yeah.
So
Keyshawn
I know.
Johnson was the biggest guy. He's on the morning show of ESPN now. And I remember watching Keyshawn and Gruden go at it when they were in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And
Mm,
I remember my always thought was, man, look at that diva wide receiver.
really?
Yeah, that's why first because it never really came out what was between those two. Because back then they were like, hey, we're gonna keep that internal, you know.
Do you think it was Gruden being racist, or was he just being an
No,
asshole?
I think it was Gruden being an asshole and not being a nice guy. Because Keyshawn never called him a racist even after these things came out. He didn't sit there. He said on ESPN radio today, he said, hey, look, this guy is not a nice guy. And I've been trying to tell you this for years, and no one ever listened to me. They just called me the diva wide receiver. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
shit, that was me. Sorry. you know,
Well, and what's interesting, I mean, first off, the rest of the story is that Gruden's only 4 years into a 10-year contract, so I don't know how that's going to play out with him resigning if he just gives up the rest of the next 4 years of salary.
yeah,
I don't
I
know
don't
how
know
that
how
works.
I don't know how any of that works.
But Rich Bisakia
It's going to
is
be the
going to,
interim head coach.
yeah, it's one of his assistant coaches is going to be the interim head coach for the rest of the year. So, what smacked of this is that it seemed like they're on a little bit of a witch hunt, and whether it justified, it seems to be or not, I'm not sure. It says like the NFL had these emails for a while,
Oh
and they
no.
were just waiting to see if the Raiders organization was going to do anything about it. And
Is that what you're reading?
yeah, it says the league
Yeah.
was waiting on the Raiders to take action per La Conforna and was prepared to step in if Las Vegas did not address the situation beyond public announcement of Gruden's email.
Wow.
So, I mean, but the other like, why were they digging into this? Like, I
Well,
want to hear
this is what I've understood. Okay, I understood that because I think it was last year there was rumblings of the Me Too movement that it was a hostile work environment for females at the Washington football team's facilities.
okay,
Okay, so that Daniel Snyder, the owner, created a culture of very misogynistic, um, very threatening to women working there, and a lot of women were coming forward saying this is it's a hostile working environment. This is really bad. They treat us horrible.
okay,
So I think there was a reporter investigating what that was about, found emails that Jon Gruden was sending to the general manager at the time
okay.
of that team, and that's where they caught it. So there is this, and I've heard a lot of people already say, dude, this was 2011. This was 10
You
years
know,
ago.
and some of it was like he was calling commissioner, what's his name? Goodell.
Goodell?
They're
Yes.
like, he was calling Goodell bad words in an email. I'm like, we all fucking call Goodell bad words. I mean, everybody's had an
He
issue
gets
with
booed
that
at the
guy.
NFL draft every year.
Yeah.
It's like a
I mean,
tradition.
we've all got issues with him in some place or another.
Right.
Or that's like if I had an issue with a boss and they dove into my emails for that I sent to my boss 11 years ago, you go, well, you said some bad things 11 years ago. And it would be one thing if he was like showing growth. If he could come back and say, you know what, I was that guy, I got right with the Lord, whatever it is. I read some self-development books, whatever. I'm not that guy anymore. And if that's a thing,
Now,
I guess,
you've hit a very
yeah,
interesting part. I think the problem was he didn't go that route. He went, well,
Correct.
I'm just trying. That's what I call liars.
Correct. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
call every liar you've ever met they have Michelin lips.
He said they have rubber lips. And so then he could put one rubber lips and even the reporter was like, the reporter whose job it is to know words says, I've never heard of that before in my entire career. And I've never heard of it either.
Neither have I. So you knew he was lying. You knew he was
you're
lying.
like,
So instead
really?
of, I guess the only way you can change is if you own up to it, right? It's something that our parents, it's something that our parents teach us is that, look, if you've made a mistake, own up to it, do the punishment, move forward. You know what I mean? And damn, it's just another example of, I guess, somebody thinking he's higher than he really is, and sitting there saying like, I don't need to touch, like, look, I get it. It might be a very scary thing because of right now, cancel culture is huge.
Right.
It's just there now. And and you're right. It had this feel in the beginning of, well, this seems kind of like a witch hunt. That's why I was kind of like, okay, maybe I'm not understanding this.
And I'm still struggling with the idea that 2011 was that 4 or 5 jobs ago for him?
Well, he wasn't even in the NFL. He was at ESPN.
Exactly. So
yeah,
I mean, that's a whole different organ. Like, I'm talking about like from a societal standpoint, like where are we at? That, I mean, change it up to a different profession. I mean, change it up to teaching, because fine. You sent some emails your second or third year of teaching that you're frustrated, you're having a bad day, and not racist stuff, but maybe things where you're saying your boss is a big fat stupid head, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And now 4 or 5 school districts later, that school district uncovered that, sent it to your current school district and said, are you going to get rid of this guy because he called his principal a big fat stupid head? And you go, yeah, I think we got to ditch him.
Yeah. Now you are taking the racist part out, and there has been more emails of him being basically everything bad you can be.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, I'm not.
I know you're not.
I don't want to defend Gruden. I'm more
right.
It's like, where are we at as society if we're looking so many jobs ago? If there is growth and development in terms of character, because everybody has done shit that we don't want out there, right?
Correct.
I mean, when we're in our 20s or early in our jobs or whatever, you grow as a person, you learn as a person, you become better.
Yes, absolutely.
And
I think maybe it would have been handled different. Maybe it would have been handled different had he owned it, had he just sat there and said, okay, yeah, you know what? I did that. And I was a different person back then. I've had a lot of time to.
I think of like the Eddie Murphy line. Like, when you go back and watch Delirious or you watch Eddie Murphy Raw, and you're like, holy shit, did he say that? And he did. He said it on a stage. Like, he can't get out. And he came out and said, man, comedy was different then. Like, we could say that. He's like, I wouldn't say that now because I've certainly grown as a person and I would hurt some friends' feelings. And I'm really sorry I said that.
Yeah.
And you go,
absolutely.
Okay, Eddie. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But that's why I guess that's my point, is just, if you would have owned it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess that's the big difference.
Instead of sitting there trying to come up with some ridiculous lie, if that's what I call liars, people with rubber lips, that means you're a liar. No, nobody's ever used that. Nobody.
Yeah.
So what are people saying? What do you guys think out there? Is this a witch hunt? Do they have a right?
I don't know. I don't see anything in the comments right now, but go ahead and throw out. I mean, it's right now, it's Monday, and this video is up there, and we do respond throughout the week. So if you're watching this on Tuesday at lunch or Wednesday on your drive home or whenever you listen to this, drop a comment. Let's have that conversation.
I think it's important. We need to. We need to have these conversations. I think a lot of people I've heard so many friends of mine say it's getting to the point where I can't give my opinion anymore.
Yeah.
And that's kind of an unhealthy space. I think what we need is more talks like this, where you and I talk and we go, okay, help me out, because I'm not seeing something here. Do you see something different than I do? And just figure it out, You've sent me a couple of YouTube videos from Emmanuel Acho.
Ocho, yeah,
Yeah.
Manuel
The
Ocho.
what is it? The Uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a great YouTube series.
Yeah. It's that's what it is. These are uncomfortable conversations, just like talking about finances. If you haven't yet with your significant other, that can get uncomfortable. Doesn't mean you
Yeah,
don't have them. You know what I mean?
true.
So uncomfortable leads to growth.
Talking about sex with your kids, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah,
But you
there
gotta
go.
have that conversations, because
You
if you
better.
won't,
You
someone else
better.
is gonna.
Yeah, you better. All right, man. I think we've hammered that enough.
Yeah, let's move on to something later.
Yeah. Kind of lighter, but
And later, what do we
this is
got?
just weird. This is just weird. I don't know how to handle this, and I kind of feel like people are blowing stuff up that's probably happened before, but they're blowing it up now because look, right now Disney, when it comes to Marvel,
Oh yeah,
they're at the top of the chain. Like they're
yeah,
up there.
the king of the
And
mountain right now.
yeah, and I've read and something I've noticed about our society is whenever you're the king of the mountain, people will celebrate it at first, and then they want to start picking
Yep.
away at it. Then a book comes out of this person was a really nice person, and then another thing comes out, and then people start suing, and then
Mm-hmm.
you know, and what we got here is, let me know if I'm understanding this, Greg. Disney is suing for the rights to characters like Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Captain America, Iron
Correct.
Man, to continuously use them instead of them going back to the people that originally created them.
Right. So it's all coming down to copyright law. So
Okay.
it is, Marvel Comics, which owned those characters. Everybody, when you think who's the father of Marvel Comics, everybody says Stan Lee. Like,
Right.
oh, Stan Lee created those characters. Well, he wrote those characters.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't as independent as everybody thinks. And I've gone through points in my life where I'm like, fuck Stan Lee, he's a thief. To okay, well, he was part of a creative team. So that's really what it is. Now, Stan worked his contracts to where it seems like he was the sole person to come up with these characters. And the fact is, he didn't. So Spider-Man, and was not just the character, not well, the artist by the name of Steve Ditko had just as much invested in creating Spider-Man than Stan Lee did. Stan wanted some of the things that we know Peter Parker as. That was totally Ditko coming in saying, yeah, I don't think he should be like whatever,
Right.
like he shouldn't have parents. Let's make his parents past, and he lives with his aunt and uncle. And
Mm-hmm.
Steve Ditko had a lot of character development in there as well.
Right.
To the point where, like, the first Spider-Man film, so the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man film, was the first time, because the Steve Ditko family won a lawsuit where his name was Spider-Man created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko.
Okay.
So this isn't the first time a lawsuit to get rights to a character has occurred. So now, fast forward, 20 years in, almost 25 years since the first
And there's a
Spider-Man film.
lot of money behind those characters now.
And now there's even, and there was a lot of money back then, and now there's even more, like millions and millions of dollars more.
Right.
So when Disney purchased Marvel as a whole entity and started making movies, well, that created more loopholes for the families of these creators to come back and say, well, the rights on those characters are gonna run out, and we want them back. So if those character rights transfer back to the family, then Disney has to make new contracts and new deals to be able to make movies of those characters. Like, they're not they're no longer just Disney's character. They belong to, at least in part, to the family. And it's a total money grab is what it is. And somewhat deservingly. I mean,
I would agree. I would say, like, if you and I don't know, if this podcast ever got, I don't know, if down the line this podcast all of a sudden starts making a ton of money and people just start watching it, and we find out that it's because somebody else started playing with it,
mm-hmm.
I'd want to sit there and go, wait a minute,
Yeah, well, that's our intellectual property. We want
Yeah.
some of that.
Right. Yeah.
So this actually one of the first history of this was with Superman. So the two men that created Superman had to sue DC Comics, saying, and because DC Comics bought the rights to Superman for like, I want to say like $900.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Not a lot. Right.
not a lot, even by like the 1920s or 1930s standards when they bought them.
Okay.
Enough to get these guys through a couple of months of living, but who knew that Superman was going to blow up to
Right. Of
be
course.
an international icon for Americanism? I mean, it was, truth, justice, the American way. So DC took Superman, made him what he is, and then the family had to come back and say, "Hey, wait a minute, like." We need more of that pie. And it took years of lawsuits for them to even get the percentages that they got.
So what do you think? What do you think is going to happen here? Do you think it's going to be just years of lawsuits,
No, I really don't think
or
so.
they're just going to do a quick buyout? And
I think the families, I think the families that I think it's going to be a settlement, because you're going up against Disney's legal team.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean,
Big guy, little guy.
Yeah, if it does end up happening that the families of, I'm not even sure who they're all suing for, but if it does end up that they win, they're going to make a movie out of it, like Aaron Brockovich, where it's going to be, here's this town going after the big corporate, and it's going to be like
you're right.
I mean, that's going to be what
You're
kind of
right.
situation this is going to be, because that's how unlikely it is. Now,
Well,
I think it's more likely that Disney's going to countersue maybe, or even just say, okay, if we give you $1 billion, will you shut the fuck up? And they're going to go, yeah, we'll be good with that. And that'll be
it. Yeah. This is the stuff I started expecting after Endgame. This is the stuff I started expecting. I started expecting these people, or no, I shouldn't say these people. I think they have a right, but I started expecting, okay, so now we're seeing chinks in the armor. Now it's, I'm expecting books coming out soon. I mean, with Scarlett Johansson suing Disney.
Right. Which she won, by the way.
She won it. So what does that mean?
That they paid her an extra $40 million.
Oh, good for her.
Which should have been her cut of the Disney Plus.
That had a lot to do with Feige, right? Wasn't he on her side?
Yeah. Feige was totally on her side. He's like, you don't treat my talent like this.
Right. Yeah.
Because she's been in it since the beginning. Like she's one of the founding Avengers.
She is. You're absolutely right. And there's a lot of love for that character. What she did with that character, there's a lot of love towards it.
Yep. I was going to make a comment in there. When you're talking about chinks in the armor, I mean, yeah. So I understand the creator side of it, because I have been to I went to a comic book convention. This is a different company, a different creator, but so DC was really advertising its next big franchise movie, The Green Lantern. I mean, it was going to be huge. We all thought that was going to be the first in a set of movies.
Spark off their own universe.
The whole Green Lantern Corps. Yeah. We're going to get plenty of films on that. And that's going to usher in kind of like a Justice League kind of piece. That was the plan.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine going to that, I believe it was Wizard World Chicago. So I'm down in Wizard World Chicago. I see DC with banners everywhere for the Green Lantern, and there's comic books and there's merch everywhere. All the vendors got it. And you go to Artist Alley and you see this old man and his wife, and he is totally just hunched over his table, signing something and no one's talking to him. He doesn't have a line. You walk by, that's the creator of Green Lantern, like the Alan Scott official Green Lantern. He created it.
So he was the guy that said, hey, I got this idea about this guy with a ring.
Yes, he's the guy who said we're going to make a power ring, and it was the Silver Age Green Lantern who had an allergy. Scott, Alan Scott couldn't do wood, but then eventually turned into the Green Lantern Corps. Like, that's the guy.
Yeah.
And you find out that Wizard World wasn't even letting him into the green room for snacks because he just wasn't a big enough creator.
Wow.
And here's DC making bank on all this merchandising
That
and
he
movie
did.
rights that they thought was going to be huge off of this guy's creation. That
Wow. Yeah.
and
That's
so I've seen it both ways, but if they just would have, and give
taking
him
care.
a half a percentage or something, yeah, just take care of
Yeah.
these guys. That I mean, there's a great organization called the Hero Initiative, and I will put a link to them in the description down below when we see them. So what they do is that they know that those golden age creators, if they're still alive, or even silver age creators, they didn't have retirement funds. Like that wasn't available to them. So they're actively helping these guys just live life and make a salary if they're not able to. And they do it by auctions, they do it by prop stuff. I'm going to find the website and post
do it, because that sounds that's good. It is a shame.
It's one of those places that when I go to a convention, I put money into their donation fund, and I'm not even buying anything. I don't want anything in return. Just let's keep those guys going.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. For those of you that have any questions or comments on that, please let us know. Like I said, or like Greg said, that if you're listening throughout the week, let us know. We will respond.
Absolutely.
Or we'll do our best to respond. Let me put it that way. So
I'm pretty on top of it.
Yeah, you are. All right, everybody. We're getting down to the nitty gritty of here. And so I just thought we'd end this with a good little throw it out there. See what you guys think. Greg, what is the most watchable TV show of all time? What do you think? I know this is a really impossible question to answer, but I guess what I'm saying is for the Greg, what's the one show that you can just never stop watching? You just never can get enough of it. It's the best one.
Well, the truth is I can't get enough of it, but it's one thing that if I'm flipping around the TV and I can't find something to watch because of whatever, like it's not that interesting, or I don't have enough time, or something I just need on in the background while I'm cleaning the house or making dinner or doing the dishes, whatever. I got it down to two shows, and you asked me this earlier, so I did put a little bit of thought into it. One is Friends. I can put that on most times, still get the giggles out of it, and be okay with it. The other one's The Office. Like I can really put The Office on anytime.
Yeah. I think the problem is you and I would like to talk to well, I would like to talk to our parents. I think my mom's was MASH or Taxi.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would really like to.
My parents, because they're retired and the TV's on most of the time. No, it's any of the NCIS shows. Like they have the syndication schedule. Like they know it. It's going to be on TNT from 10 a.m. to noon.
Do they get excited about the new one?
And it'll be on. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sure they do. So yeah, it's NCIS most of the time. Dad is NCIS, or
but for him, that's all time. Like he will, like that's all time.
It's what they're doing. I mean,
it's what they're doing now.
But it used to, growing up, it was MASH. Like Dad had to watch MASH in syndication,
or Cheers or something like that.
It was always MASH for Dad.
MASH.
We knew.
I remember my mom watching 6:30 all the time.
6:30 to 7. Dad, we knew that's what we were watching was MASH.
Yeah,
and that was it.
Yeah.
But then he felt like he doesn't watch MASH much anymore. It's still on. Like he could find it, but he just doesn't. He likes the NCIS and the CSI.
Yeah.
But show.
Yeah, going back, I agree, Greg. There's not, to me, it's The Office or it's Friends. Speaking of Friends, watching that now, and with what we've been talking about all show with the cancel culture now, my God, there's some bad stuff there now.
It wouldn't work. I mean, first off, you're dealing with a bunch of white people like that. Hollywood wouldn't let that happen now,
right?
But
what about Three's Company? How bad if you were to watch that again?
Oh gosh, no kidding. Like Tripper, Jack Tripper.
Jack Tripper,
he was total homophobe. He couldn't function around a person he thought was gay, And so was
No,
Mr.
no, no,
Roper.
no. Mr. Roper was
Am I thinking of it wrong? Roper?
no.
Because
Mr.
that's right.
Roper was
Roper
Mr.
thought Jack was gay.
was gay so he could live with the girls.
So okay, yep, that's
Right.
how it went.
Yeah, and so Jack had to always pretend he was gay around them, and they would do like I remember Mr. Roper going,
yeah,
like you know, like I don't know why,
like calling him a fairy kind of thing.
Yes, yeah, and he had a womanizer best friend, Larry. Remember the upstairs neighbor who always had the hair, you know, had the
we had a Larry.
Yeah, but he wasn't like that.
not quite like that, but
no.
Cousin Clay says always sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, honestly, that is good.
Honestly, I haven't watched a single episode of that show. It's been on for
my goodness,
like a decade. I've never watched a single episode.
Oh, it's
I feel bad.
It's kind of weird. I don't know. I don't know if you could actually watch it from the beginning, moving all the way forward. Like, I think you'd actually let me know if I'm wrong with this, people. Maybe you have to watch it from the end.
Is it over?
Down.
They're not doing it anymore?
I don't know. I heard 2 years ago, but I think there's new episodes now. But that's fantastic. That's a fantastic. Who said that?
Cousin Clay. So Cousin Clay
is a great one, Clay. And Clay says, I've noticed you and I usually don't agree on stuff. That was fantastic. That was
he said Always Sunny. He agrees on The Office, and then he put in Letterkenny. And
you're a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that, but I can see where people are.
Like, I can't binge
it
as
Packer fans. I can see it, but I'm not there.
Yeah. It reminds us of our culture. Clay said Always Sunny's still going. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I never watched Always Sunny, and I never watched The League. Those were two shows that I just
League is, you know what was weird about The League? I really enjoy The League, but I don't seek it out. Like I can watch it right now. I can watch everything on Hulu, and it was good when I would have nothing else to watch, but I just don't seek it out.
I totally missed the boat on both of those, and I don't know why. I mean, it's not like I wasn't watching TV in the past 10 years.
Yeah, but I mean, The League is great. It's all really about fantasy football. It's like I understand.
Maybe that's why I skipped.
Actually, it's based off of that, but it's also their lives.
Right.
But it's all based off their league of fantasy football.
And there's people have grown huge careers out of both of those shows.
Yeah.
And
hey, real quick tip for all you fantasy football people out there. Nobody gives a shit about your rosters, even the people that play you. So stop telling people. No one cares. I don't know how many. I'm sorry, I'm going on a rant here. I don't know how many people have come up to me and be like, dude, yeah, I just got this guy. I don't give a fuck, dude. It's imaginary. It doesn't matter. Did he really go to your team, your sports team? Did like Patrick Mahomes actually go to the Chicago Bears? No, he went to some goofy name you thought of, and you just put it on this list and you look on your computer. Like, I don't care. Nobody cares. That's like me calling you up, Greg, in the middle of the night and saying, hey, dude, on Madden, I just threw for 6 touchdown passes. You'd be like, are you kidding me?
Good for you.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay. So stop it. Nobody cares. And the people that are my friends that keep telling me, I don't care. I don't care.
That's funny.
Okay. And
take a breath and see. Yeah, there you go.
So
yeah, I'm trying to think of other shows that I would watch.
I can't think of any sci-fi shows like Buck Rogers back then or Star Trek.
No, because honestly, I've tried watching Buck Rogers and it just doesn't hit the same. Like there's
remember when we saw the girl that was in there at the
Erin Gray? Yeah, she's
so
a fantastic
beautiful
woman.
Still. Yeah, so beautiful. Still.
Yep, super nice, fantastic woman.
Yes,
I tried like when my kids were little, and I was looking for like some wholesome TV to watch. We tried watching Buck Rogers, and we made it a ways. Like we made it into like season 2 or something like that, and like the kids just fell off and they didn't care.
Yeah, and
I wasn't hooked in enough to keep watching. Okay. So, yeah, but with my kids, we're watching What We Do in the Shadows. Like now, we're catching up, and we love it. So maybe that'll be something for them.
So fantastic! I haven't seen the new season yet. I need time because I feel like that's one you actually have to sit and watch and pay attention because you will miss small little things.
Yep.
And when my little girl's running around, I can't
Well, and there's language issues in there.
There are language, but I think there's adult humor she'd never get, even if she watched it. She
not
wouldn't
really
get it yet. But I haven't gotten to it yet. Rick and Morty, I'm a huge fan of Rick and Morty. I know that's become a cult thing.
Yeah. Like cult classic. You mean it's got a following, huge following.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else do we like? I watch Vikings, but that's not like I don't think I'm gonna rewatch Vikings in 10 years.
Are you gonna watch Game of Thrones?
I went back to it.
That?
I did. I went back to it beginning of COVID. I went back to it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, yeah, because there was this weird period in there where I got my 3 screens set up at my desk here, and I just, because of COVID and so much stuff had shut down, and yeah, we were going kind of batshit crazy on some other things, but I would finish like part of a project and like ship it off to somebody, and they would need to get me feedback before I could move on it, and I didn't have anything else to do for a little bit.
Yeah.
Or I didn't have something that was so, I guess I shouldn't say I didn't have anything to do. I was doing things that weren't so mind focused that I couldn't have something on in the background. Right. So rather than doing podcasts and stuff like that, I started kind of rewatching Game of Thrones.
My wife rewatched Breaking Bad.
Okay.
During COVID.
See, that's what I should do. I should probably actually finish that show.
Yeah.
Never finished that. I did. I also got like 4 or 5 seasons back into True Blood and fell off.
Okay.
Because because it was one of those things I'm like, well, might as well watch something. And I was in a show hole, so I just started watching it again. I'm like, this wasn't bad. And then you get to the points where it's bad, and you're like, well, I know it'll pick up in a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of rewatched some of that. I didn't finish it. Didn't finish Game of Thrones. Like I got to the point where Game of Thrones, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to skip to these episodes that I know I'm going to like.
Yeah.
Like the Battle of the Bastards and stuff like that.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
That's a great one. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. I think we'll end it there.
I'm going to keep pondering that question. Like when we're done, I'm going to go back to my TV and start searching through all my streaming options and be like,
for those of you like Cousin Clay, is he actually your cousin, Greg?
Yeah, he's totally my cousin.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I thought he just called himself Cousin Clay. Okay.
No, out of my like 180 cousins, there's like 6 that I actually keep up with, and he's one of them. So
all right. All right. Well, like Cousin Clay, how he's adding shows. Anybody else out there that has thought of, they totally missed the boat on this one or this one, let us know. We will continue this conversation as we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Greg, why don't you sign us out, big guy?
Well, as we've learned from Mr. Gruden and some other people this week,
thank you, John.
We gotta know a couple of rules to life. One is to know your audience, especially if you're sending emails and things that you might think are funny that could come back and bite you in the ass 10, 15, 20 years later. Know your audience, like know who that can be. The internet's a real thing. Nothing ever really goes away and things can be saved. So watch yourself when you're out there. 2, know your facts, and check your sources. So know where that quote unquote fact is coming from. And then as you're going through life, and Mr. Gruden could have used this lesson, don't be a douche.
Yeah. That's right. So for the Greg, this is Johnny. Everybody, thank you for listening. Podcast out, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. See ya.
See you.